So I recently have been making several posts and videos about Dionysus and astrology and the remarkable absence of Dionysus from the astrological canon. There is no planet named Dionysus. There's no sign called Dionysus. So if you are to just come upon astrology, even as a person who's got some, certain amount of mythological awareness, Dionysus is just nowhere to be found. Which, when you know and you research the cosmology and the theology of the ancient world, you can't throw a stone without hitting Dionysus. Basically, you're gonna collide with Dionysus very quickly. The Bacchic, and again, Bacchus is another name for Dionysus. The cults of Dionysus, of Bacchus, were incredibly dominant in the ancient world because they sort of held a thread that goes back incredibly deep in goddess worship and tree worship. And so the metaphors of goddess worship and tree worship are central to Dionysian thought. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Marsilio Ficino. So a little bit of synchronicity. I was just looking for some commentary on the decans. I was going back into several of the astrological texts of Agrippa and of Ficino and a few others, the Picatrix too, to see what I could find, because I just wanted to sort of refresh myself and see if I could see more in them. But I immediately stumbled upon something where it's clear that Ficino found Dionysus. I'm going to read a poem of Ficino's. This is Marsilio Ficino. A little bit of background. This is from Grokpedia. Marsilio Ficino was an Italian philosopher, priest, and Renaissance humanist. Lived from 1433 to 1499. He was a central figure in Florentine intellectual life, supported by the Medici family, and he was ordained a priest in 1473. Now, he's a great defender and proponent of astrology, which is we generally think of as being something that was frowned upon by the church, but that's really kind of not true. It was, in my opinion, it was something that was held as an inner door practice by the church and secret societies that constellated around the church, but they didn't want people outside of their ranks to be messing around with this stuff, because they would find exactly what I'm about to start talking about. So Ficino's cosmological framework integrated Ptolemaic astronomy with Neoplatonic principles of emanation, positing a hierarchical universe animated by divine intelligence descending from God through intermediary realms to the material world. Just to say, I've been advocating that this is the cosmology that you have to understand astrology. In this model, the cosmos is ensouled, with planetary souls serving as active intermediaries that transmit celestial influences to earthly beings, reflecting the anima mundi, or world soul, that binds all levels of existence. Now, the first thing that he says there, and this is from Grokpedia, this is people who probably don't know what they're saying. the first thing he says here is the cosmos is ensouled. Now, anybody who knows Hecate knows that she is the cosmic soul. So here in Grokkopedia, they're probably people, again, who don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're parroting language from Ficino, but Ficino was talking about Hecate. But of course, you can't say Hecate. I don't believe he says Hecate anywhere, but that's who we're talking about. Hecate was the original Sotera, or savior, a mantle which was taken up by the Christian savior. So central to this worldview is a concept of a sympathetic chain linking God, the planets, and Earth, where all entities resonate through affinities akin to strings of a lute trembling in harmony. As elaborated in his Devita trilogy, this chain operates via the soul's connective power, allowing celestial forces to permeate the human spirit and body without implying rigid causation. Now, the rigid causation part is where the church allegedly had a problem with astrology. They wanted to preserve the idea that there's just enough free will within humanity to accept Christ or to deny Christ. That was the only real free will they were interested in at all. That was like, you either get, your a golden ticket through the pearly gates by believing, or you're denied your golden ticket by failing to believe. Now, this, I could get into the problems I have with that, but that's not the point of this. So here we go. So this is Ficino. Now, I'm going to read a poem by Ficino here. This is from 3 books on life. All right. So again, remember, this is about finding Dionysus, or finding Bacchus. This is a poem by Marsilio Ficino from his book On Life to the magnanimous Lorenzo de' Medici, preserver of his country. Now, this is absolutely laced with references to Dionysus and to the major Dionysian myths. And he says, the poets sing that Bacchus, the supreme prelate of priests. And now already we're in goddess territory here. This is Bacchus points directly back to the goddess, to Persephone. And we're going to get into that momentarily. But just to say, this is like immediately we're in goddess territory here. So Bacchus, the supreme prelate of priests, was born twice. Born twice. Signifying perhaps either that one who is going to be a priest should be reborn at the moment of his initiation, or else that one is at length a perfected priest, his mind deeply drunken with God seems now to have been reborn. All right, right here we've got immediately this twice-born idea is from the myth of Zagreus. Zagreus was the child of Zeus and Persephone. Persephone, of course, is the goddess of the underworld, who was taken away by Hades into the underworld to become the queen of the underworld. She's also the daughter of Zeus, so the fact that Zeus and one of his daughters, are having a kid together, there's a little, that's a little problematic from our standpoint. But again, this is mythology, so we need to understand that this is a divine lineage, and it preserves itself. It's a bloodline. Um, okay, so this myth of Zagreus is extremely important because this myth brings us a concept that is central to um, Christianity, because the baby Zagreus was born initially of um, his mother Persephone, but then the Titans learned of his destiny, which was to be the inheritor to the um, kingdom of heaven. So the Titans tore the baby Zagreus to shreds, and only one part of Zagreus apparently survived, which was his heart. And upon finding that the Titans had torn his son to shreds, Zeus, the mighty thundering Zeus, of course, smote them with thunderbolts, and he took the still beating heart of his son and he sewed it into his thigh. And the heart gestated within his thigh magically, and he was reborn as the spiritual son, sort of his father. So he was born of a woman initially, and then reborn into the father. Now, what does that sound like? That's a just like opening up um, a door and a freight train goes through it. Like, Christianity comes barreling through this mythic door here. So, and the reference here, the priest should be reborn there at his initiation, just like Zagreus. And then he mentions the perfected priest being deeply drunken with God. Okay, there we got Bacchus again. So he's piling this stuff on so heavy, it's pretty ridiculous. And frenzy, of course, is one of the areas. The spiritual frenzy, which is actually an orgiastic frenzy, is what Bacchus was all about, or Dionysus. So he goes on to say, or perhaps in a less exalted sense, they mean the wine, the seed of Bacchus, is born twice on the vine, Semele, which is a goddess, when the clusters are ripe beneath Phoebus, and born again after the thunderbolt of the vintage as pure wine in its proper vessel, the thigh of Jupiter. Okay, there you go. We have it. The thigh of Jupiter. So this is our, we've got here the the agricultural slash agrarian side of the mythology, which I've been speaking of, which is it's the metaphor of the world tree, of the vine. Again, the vine kind of took over the place of the world tree because of this, the magic of wine, the magic of fermentation, which distills something and turns it into something that doesn't go bad, basically. That, a wine turns the fermentation process turns something that's basically coarse into something that is not only can it remain on the shelf, it also intoxicates you and brings you into the state of drunkenness, which again brings back God, but God as Bacchus, and God as the Son, who is reborn from his birth to Mary, and reborn unto his Father after a fall, essentially, into this realm, and rebirth as this hyper masculinized being. Now we've got a male born to a male, and this is like why he goes on here Um, I will read this. But it is our task not at present to speak of sacred mysteries. Now, the sacred mysteries are, again, Bacchus, Dionysus. When we are presently about to bring help to the sick by natural means. So he's starting to bring in here this healing tradition, which is the same people, the same stuff. It's entirely the same tradition, and it's the goddess tradition. And there's people out there now who have done in-depth translations of Galen, who we're about to get to, that show that the Galen was speaking about. He talked a lot about hallucinogenic and a lot of things in the mystery cults were taken to be healing, but they were also highly psychoactive. Some of them were transformative of the bodies of young people. There's a whole body of knowledge that comes through Galen about this that has everything to do with these mystery cults. But I digress. Nor ought we to proceed in a style that expresses gravity. So he wants to keep it light here. This is, and again, this is back to, he does want to express gravity. He's obfuscating the fact that he's saying something of extreme gravity here. And let's actually skip this. But what if there might be a sign, not without meaning, in my mouth, just now happening to utter Bacchus? So there's a sign, a meaningful sign in his mouth about to utter Bacchus. For he perhaps heals more salubriously with his nourishing wine and his carefree jollity than that Phoebus with his herbs and songs. So he's saying that the orgiastic aspect of healing is probably more important than going to a doctor and getting some kind of incantations and herbs. But these are the same things, actually. But whatever interpretation you accept, he continues, Bacchus, that leader of priests, is said to have had, as it were, two mothers. Now, two mothers, we're going back to Egypt here. The two goddesses who follow they're everywhere. They're the two pillars, Jochan and Boaz. This is the two goddesses. The sign of Gemini is about these two goddesses. The division of the goddess into these two. That's all that's about. But now he's going to do what he has to do here, which is to he talks about Melchizedek. Melchizedek had the highest of priests. He was the highest of priests. He had scarcely one mother and scarcely one father. I, the least of priests, and he's self-deprecating here, had two fathers. Ficino the doctor, obviously his biological father, and Cosimo de' Medici. From the former I was born, from the latter reborn. The former commended me to Galen as both a doctor and a Platonist. The latter consecrated me to the divine Plato. Now he goes to then link up Plato and Galen basically to these two goddesses. So if my insistence that Dionysus is, in fact, sitting behind astrology isn't, if that doesn't ring a bell, this is the one of the greatest philosophers of the Renaissance who brought back the Platonic tradition, which I think this was already happening when Ficino lived, but he spoke about this in ways that he had no fear. He was just, full on Bacchic worship, and smoothing over and obviating the actual, shall we say, the heritage from which Christianity arose. He's telling us right here, this is where Christianity came from. There's no problems here. Don't even like try and make any fuss about this. This is 100% our lineage. We come from Bacchus. So if this is of interest to you, you can reach me. I have a YouTube. I have Substack, Daimon, Daimon, Seed Astrologer, and my website is michaelmsuter.com.